The Raptors fall to the Utah Jazz, 145-113. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Jevohn Shepherd, Sherman Hamilton, and Paul Jones. Sherman, I'll start with you. I think all the Raptor fans would have loved to see a Raptors win to finish out this trip, considering those close games in LA. But they couldn't get many stops. Why couldn't they get any stops?
Well, that Utah team's a good team, number one, and they're playing some of their best basketball of the season. I mean, the stretch are on the last 10 games, 8-2, and they've beaten like a murderer's row of high competition level teams in the NBA. Talking about the Denver Nuggets prior to that, the Bucks prior to that, the Sixers, and two of those games were on the road. So you just think about the level that they're playing at, and they've got this size in their paint. It's difficult to really get good looks in the paint, and the Raptors struggled all evening long against that team. And also this, Utah's bench is the second best bench in the league in terms of scoring. They put up 81 points, and I get it. Fourth quarter, there was some garbage time out there, but throughout the meaty parts of the game, Utah's bench severely outplayed the Raptors' bench, and that to me created some issues as well. But offensively, they just couldn't find that flow they needed. And in the third quarter, when they found offense and were knocking down three-point shots, Utah matched them shot for shot from the three-point line, was able to make 8 threes as the Raptors did in trying to make that push. Utah's playing some good basketball right now. In the last game of the road trip, it's the tough one. It's the one that either everything goes or everything comes together. And this game, it didn't come together for the Raptors.
Yeah. Jonesy, what frustrated you while watching this one?
Well, to Sherm's point, it's a bit of a schedule loss. You know, you're away from home 10 days, 5, 6 different cities. It's hip hopping across time zones. It's tough. It's a tough trip, and it's a tough way to end the trip. I think for me in the third quarter, like Utah made their break in the middle of the second quarter. And I thought in the third quarter, Toronto came out and you could see renewed energy. You could see them, the chatter in the locker room along the lines of, hey man, we're down 17, but we shouldn't be. We're better than this. Let's get out here and let's get after it. And they did. And they scored 38 points in the third quarter. Problem was they gave up 41. And it was like every time the Raptors came with force or did something that was really good offensively, Utah came right back and answered. Utah did something that was really hard to do, and that's play with a big lead, because human nature says you back off, the other guy gets upset and he plays harder, and all of those things kind of go into a lead dissipating. But Utah actually won that third quarter by 3 points and pushed the lead from 17 to 20. So it had to be frustrating for the Raptors to expend all that energy and effort and really play well and shoot the ball well and make, put up 38 points, but then at the other end, give up 41. So, that's, to me, that's where the game, Utah made their break in the second quarter, but I think they sealed the game in the third.
Jevohn, specifically, what issues defensively were you seeing, and are you concerned?
No, I don't think there's much of a concern. Like both Jonesy and Sherm mentioned, it's the last game of a 6-game road trip. So guys are going to be fatigued, right? And you don't want to make that mistake. But, where I would raise an eye is you know who you're playing against, right? So that effort has to be there. And if you look at the scouting report and you've watched Utah, they're going to send 3 or 4 guys to the offensive boards every game, nightly. That is their DNA, right? I think they have the second most second chance points in the league. And they started out, that's what kept them in the game earlier. That had them rolling early, just the offensive rebounds and the putbacks and so forth. So in games like those, when shots aren't falling and maybe you can't hold the offensive opponent in front of you, you've got to box out, right? Those effort plays, those energy plays have got to be there. And the team just didn't have that tonight, right? You don't want to make excuses for them, but the effort, the energy, just on the little things. And even, you knew you're going to play against a Utah team that is going to cough the basketball up, cough the basketball over. And you've got to convert on those plays, especially when, it's not your night, right? A number of your offensive guys or your firepower just didn't have it. RJ didn't have it tonight. Quickly had a quiet night. Pascal was going, but, as a cohesive unit, we didn't see that. We didn't see the offense flow from the Raptors. So again, those, nights like these and, the end of a road stretch, the effort and energy has to be that much higher on the intangibles.
Sure. RJ had a tough game, as Jevohn mentioned, 4 points, 7 rebounds. Didn't start the second half. What do you make of that? Is that anything or nothing?
No, I don't look at it as anything. I think in that situation, Darko's trying to find energy. He's trying to find a jump for this team, and he decided to go with Gary Trent Jr. And I don't think RJ sulked about it. He came out, he was professional. He did what he was trying to do what he could do to help his team win. But to me, that's just a coach. He's searching. He's trying to figure out how can he get a unit out there that's going to play and produce on a high level consistently. And I tell you what, it worked. The third quarter was the best third quarter for the Raptors. They scored a ton. They shot the ball well from three. Pascal was phenomenal, but it just wasn't enough on a night like this. But there's no question that RJ Barrett is going to have games like this. That's not going to deter my opinion of how good of a player he is. You just scrap this one up, you throw it away, and you move on to the next one on Monday.
Jonesy, Pascal Siakam, one of the lone bright spots here for the Raptors tonight. He's just been lights out from three for a while now. What are you seeing from him?
It's what we call leadership. There's trades, there's been movement within the team. He's still a mainstay, and there's a lot of noise circulating around him. And I'm seeing a guy who is being extremely professional, putting his head down and playing as hard as he can, playing the best way he can, being a leader on the floor. So that's something that you relish in a veteran, in one of your vets. You watch Pascal, his development, his time in Toronto, how he's become a leader on the team. And, you saw it tonight. He was a guy trying to pull them up by their bootstraps. And he had as you said, the lone bright spot. He had a heck of a game. Problem was there wasn't much help. And, Utah was really, really on their game tonight.
Jevohn, earlier this season when the Jazz were struggling, it kind of made last year look like a fluke, but they've been, 13-4 in their last 17 with this win. And it was rumored that before all this, great play, Lauri Markkanen was, potentially on the trading block. I can't imagine that would be the case now.
Yeah, you'd have to have, a big return on Markkanen if that's the case. But you look at how this group is playing, and it's just a really well-coached team. I think Will Hardy's only 35 years old. He has the 7th youngest team in the league. And there's a lot to work with right here. And it's funny because I think I underestimated them myself. And I imagine with Clarkson, with Sexton, they're going to be a team that's far more isolation. They're going to play far more isolation, off the dribble, off the bounce. But there's a lot more. They use those guys as almost a decoy, but there's a lot more going on off of the ball, the screens, the cutting to the basket. They're second in the league in screen assists. So they play like cohesive basketball. They play team basketball. And I credit a lot of that to Coach Will Hardy, his staff. But, if you talk about trades and so forth with Markkanen, with Kessler, Keontae George, who I think is an absolute stud, they have a lot of pieces to work with and build from. And if you look across the league, some of the teams that are having the most success are teams that have built organically. So I'm not too certain that you're trading any of these pieces for players. If you are going to make a move, maybe for draft picks and start to build, ground up like we've seen most of the Angels teams do. But I like what they have. I like what they have, and they're really, really well coached.
Yeah, sure. And we've seen them now up close 2 times this season, both Jazz wins over the Raptors. They're now in the 10th and final play-in position. Do they make some noise in that? Can they make the playoffs?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, they made a great push right now, and they're doing a good job of winning in a way that can be consistent. They're not playing outside of themselves, and to me, that's a great sign for them. Can you keep this kind of close to this level of play over the next 10 to 15 games? That's going to be the real determining factor. You get past that point and you become a playoff team, and you're going to be a team that has created consistency to earn a spot. So there's no question they have the talent. The Western Conference is tough, but the way they're playing and how they're doing it defensively, it can be sustainable if they're committed and they're able to really buy into what they're doing. And I think what we've seen from this team is that they've got great size, they've got enough shooting, they've got ball handling, screen setting, they can rebound the basketball. They can do a lot of things. They just have to be consistent. And if they do that, they're a playoff team in the Western Conference.
Jonesy, Jontay Porter, 31 minutes, the most he's played as a Raptor. 9 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, really solid out there in a lot of different aspects of the game. Is this sustainable for him? Do you see him sticking in the NBA?
Sure. I mean, you said sustainable. It is. He's been solid, if not unspectacular. He's just kind of gone about his business, shooting the shots that come to him, rebounding, setting screens, trying to be part of the defensive rotation in the right spots. I like what the kid's been doing. I really, really do. And you think about the way the NBA is going now, you need a guy who's 6'10", 6'11", who's going to be able to play the 5 spot for you, that can step out, make threes, guard people on the perimeter, switch out, run the floor. The days of the lumbering, 7-footer that's kind of plodding up and down the court like a Clydesdale, those days are gone. And listen, he's come in, again, another guy. We talk about the adjustment for Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. Here's another guy. He's come in the middle of the year. And, a little time with 905. Now he's pressed into a lot more service. I think he's done a really, really good job. I think he's developing into a solid player. And, he's young enough, too, that if you hang on to him, here's another guy to grow with your core. And like I said, he may not be a spectacular piece right now, but boy, he's sure useful, and he plays his role really, really well.
Yeah, I just want to add something to that. When you're in a role like that, where you're getting these opportunities, the one thing a coach wants to do and teammates want to do, they want to be able to trust that you're not going to go rogue. You're not going to just try to get your game off and try to be the guy who shows what he can do because you're trying to keep your job. And he's done a great job of that. He's playing smart basketball. He's consistent. He's doing the things, the hustle things that need to be done. I think he's making a great case for himself by not trying to do too much and creating trust in the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm. Jevohn, I want to go to this a little overtime real quick. Nikola Jokic right now, as I'm looking at it, is 11 for 17, but coming into tonight, he was 62 for his last 75 from the field in his last 7 games. Like, I can't even believe I'm saying those numbers. Obviously, we know one of the games he was 11 for 11. I want to ask you, how many shots have you made consecutively in a game?
Wow. This is what you want to do to me, Randy?
Yeah, is it?
I don't have
pickup game.
I don't have a great memory. I have a shooter's mentality. So I'm 10 for 10 in my head always. 10 for 10 in my head always.
Anybody have any memories of the best run that they had without a miss? Sure.
I can't think of any right now, but I've had a couple of pretty high field goal percentage games over my career.
Yeah, Jonesy. Jonesy, you've had an 8 for 8 for sure.
That somewhere in there. It might have been 8 for 8, might have been over 9 games, but yeah, there was an 8 for 8 in there somewhere.
I'll tell you mine. I had an intramural game where I
stop.
where I had 31 in 15 minutes.
Stop.
And it felt really good. I don't know how many I made in a row, but it felt really good. All right, gonna stop it there. Great stuff as always, guys. Next game for the Raptors is Monday versus the Boston Celtics. Tip-off goes at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, after the game, come on by Real Sports. Try to be a part of the show if we let you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.